rain fell relentlessly that night in the quiet village of Elderwood, a place where shadows seemed to linger longer than usual, and whispers of the past echoed faintly in the wind. Thunder growled overhead like an ancient beast, drowning out the distant cries of a young woman named Illyra, a girl whose life was about to be shattered by forces darker than she could ever imagine. Illyra was no ordinary girl. She carried the beauty of springtime youth, but her fate was tangled in a web of cruelty spun by men with hearts as cold as the stone walls of the old village chapel. She ran, barefoot and trembling, through the muddy fields, the cold rain soaking her to the bone. Behind her, the snarls of the relentless pack closed in. The howling wolves were no ordinary beasts, they were the cursed hunters, men transformed by greed and dark packs, hunting the innocent to sate a bloodthirst that could never be quenched. "Let me go. Please, I beg you." Illyra screamed, her voice raw with terror and pain. But her pleas were swallowed by the storm and the cruel laughter of the men who pursued her. Among them was Garrick, a once respected hunter who had long since sold his soul for power. His eyes gleamed with malice as he reached out, dragging Illyra down into the dirt. "Illyra, you owe a debt, girl," hissed a cruel voice. Mordrin, the village blacksmith, whose twisted smile showed no hint of mercy. "You'll serve us, or you'll pay with your life." Desperation surged in Illyra's chest, fueling a fierce resistance. With every ounce of strength, she clawed at her captors, biting and scratching as they bound her wrists. The men mocked her efforts, their shadows flickering like demons in the lightning flashes. But as the storm grew fiercer, so did Illyra's rage. A strange heat ignited within her, a force long buried beneath the surface, awakened by the injustice and cruelty inflicted upon her. Her eyes glowed with a spectral light, and an eerie silence fell. Suddenly, Illyra's teeth sank into Mordrin's ear, tearing flesh and sending him reeling in agony. The other men froze, the laughter dying in their throats as they stared at the transformation before them. Blood dripped from Illyra's lips, mingling with the rain. "You will pay," she whispered hoarsely, her voice no longer just human but laced with something otherworldly. "All of you will beg for mercy." The men fled into the night, their faces pale and hearts pounding with primal fear. In the heart of Elderwood, the fire in the old village shrine flared bright and wild, as if responding to the dark thou uttered in the storm. The curse had been awakened. 3 years passed in a blur of silence and dread. Illyra was gone, vanished without a trace, but the village never forgot. Strange happenings haunted the nights. Livestock were found mutilated, crops withered under a strange blight, and villagers whispered of a ghostly figure seen wandering the fields at twilight. Among those who paid the price was Kale, a merchant with ties to the very men who had wronged Illyra. His death was violent and mysterious. His body was found in a pool of blood near the ancient oak, his face twisted in terror, one ear gnawed as if by some beast. The village healer, Maeve, examined the scene with growing unease. "This is no ordinary death," she murmured. "There is a darkness here, something vengeful." The villagers murmured about Illyra's spirit, now a vengeful wraith, returning to claim retribution on those who had destroyed her life. Fear grew like wildfire. But among them, a young woman named Lyra refused to be ruled by superstition. She was the granddaughter of the village's last true guardian, a line of protectors sworn to keep the balance between the mortal world and the unseen. Determined to uncover the truth, Lyra began her own investigation, seeking out the stories buried deep in Elderwood's history. In dusty tomes and whispered legends, she found mention of a terrible curse, one that could only be broken by confronting the past and making peace with the restless dead. As Lyra delved deeper, she uncovered troubling ties. The village elders, once silent, had been protecting secrets darker than anyone dared to admit. She discovered that the men who attacked Lyra were connected to a forbidden pact with an ancient entity known only as the Shadow Sovereign, a being that demanded sacrifice and obedience. Lyra's resolve hardened. She knew that to save her village, she would have to face not only the restless spirit of Lyra but also the sinister forces lurking in the shadows. Meanwhile, the village was on edge. Strange noises echoed through the night. Children whispered of a shadowy figure with burning red eyes, stalking the outskirts. The air grew heavy with dread, and no one dared venture out after dark. One night, Lyra stood by the ancient oak, clutching the talisman passed down from her ancestors. The wind howled as a chilling voice echoed through the branches. "Your time has come, child of Elderwood," it whispered. "Will you stand with the living, or join the shadows forever?" Lyra's heart raced. She gripped the talisman tighter, feeling the ancient power course through her veins. "I will fight," she declared, voice steady despite the fear clutching her soul. "For the village. For Lyra. For peace." From the darkness emerged a flicker of light, the faint glow of a figure, translucent but fierce. Lyra's spirit, caught between vengeance and sorrow, looked upon Lyra with eyes that held both pain and hope. Thus began a battle not just of flesh and blood, but of wills, a struggle to break the curse, to heal old wounds, and to bring light back to Elderwood. The village of Elderwood had been cloaked in an unnatural stillness since the night of Lyra's disappearance. But beneath the silence, an undercurrent of fear rippled through the hearts of its inhabitants. Secrets long buried began to surface like ghostly whispers carried on the biting winter wind. Lyra, now burdened with the knowledge of the curse, refused to let the past rot untouched. She sought answers in the village archives, a dusty chamber beneath the old chapel, where faded manuscripts chronicled Elderwood's forgotten history. Among the brittle pages, she discovered a fragment of a journal written by her great-grandmother, Seraphine, the last known guardian of the Vale. The entries spoke of a shadow that had come to the village centuries ago, promising prosperity in exchange for allegiance, only to demand a blood price in return. The passage that chilled Lyra to her core described a ritual, the binding of shadows performed by the village elders in secret. A dark pact sealed with the blood of an innocent. The pact was meant to protect the village, but at a terrible cost. The souls of those wronged would never rest. Suddenly, everything clicked. The attack on Lyra, the vengeful spirits, the string of mysterious deaths, all part of a cycle that had trapped Elderwood in a loop of suffering. Determined to break the curse, Lyra prepared to confront the village council. But the elders, wary and secretive, denied the truth, branding her as a troublemaker meddling in affairs beyond her understanding. Undeterred, Lyra enlisted the help of Finn, a reclusive hunter with knowledge of the old ways and a personal grudge against the corrupt elders. Finn revealed a hidden path in the forest that led to the ruins of the Shadow Shrine, the site where the original pact was made. Under the cloak of night, Lyra and Finn ventured into the haunted woods. The trees whispered warnings, and shadows seemed to twist and crawl as if alive. They reached the crumbling altar just as a ghostly wind carried a mournful wail. Suddenly, figures emerged from the mist, the spirits of those sacrificed in the binding of shadows. Their faces were twisted in agony, eyes burning with hatred, yet pleading for release. One spirit stepped forward, a young woman with a familiar face. It was Lyra, bound by chains of sorrow and vengeance. Her gaze locked with Lyra's. "Why have you come?" Lyra's voice was both a whisper and a thunderclap. "To end this," Lyra replied firmly. "To free you and the others from this curse." Lyra's expression softened. "Many have tried. All failed. The darkness is tied to the village's soul." As they spoke, the ground trembled. From the earth rose the Shadow Sovereign, a towering figure cloaked in darkness, eyes like burning coals. Its voice echoed like a chorus of nightmares. "You dare defy the pact?" it bellowed. "You seek to undo what was sworn in blood." Lyra stood tall, clutching the talisman her grandmother had given her. "The pact was a lie. This ends tonight." A battle of wills ensued. Light clashed with darkness, hope fought despair. Lyra called upon the ancient magic of the Guardians, weaving spells of protection and purification. Finn fought beside her, wielding silver-tipped arrows that pierced through the shadow minions summoned by the Sovereign. The spirits of the sacrificed began to glow faintly, their chains weakening. But the Shadow Sovereign was relentless. It summoned storms and shadows to engulf the forest, threatening to consume everything. In the chaos, Lyra was struck down, her talisman shattered. Darkness began to seep into her soul. At the brink of defeat, Lyra's spirit broke free from her chains and collided with the Sovereign. A brilliant light erupted as two forces battled within the spectral realm. With a scream that shook the heavens, Lyra unleashed a surge of pure energy, breaking the chains of the binding. The Shadow Sovereign howled in rage and pain as it began to dissolve. The storm calmed. The forest grew still once more. Lyra awoke beneath the stars, the talisman restored, and the spirits around her now peaceful and glowing softly as they ascended toward the light. But the victory came at a cost. The village's fate was forever changed. The elders were exposed, their dark secrets revealed. Trust was broken, and the path to true peace would be long and fraught. As dawn broke over Elderwood, Lyra and Finn returned to the village, knowing their fight was just beginning. For shadows always linger where light tries to shine. The sun rose over Elderwood, casting long shadows over a village forever changed. The elders' dark secrets were now whispered openly in the marketplace, their ancient pact shattered but leaving behind wounds that bled beneath the surface. Lyra paced through the crowded square, her mind heavy with new worries. The villagers looked at her with a mixture of hope and suspicion. Though she had freed them from the Shadow Sovereign's curse, many feared what new dangers might rise from the chaos. Beside her walked Finn, ever watchful and brooding. His past was a shadow as tangled as the forest they just escaped, but for now, his loyalty was unwavering. "We've broken the curse," Lyra said softly, "but the battle isn't over. The evil we faced, it was only a fragment of something far greater." Finn nodded grimly. "And the elders, some will never forgive us for exposing them. They'll strike back in ways we can't yet see." As they spoke, a hooded figure watched from the edge of the crowd, eyes sharp, movements calculated. This was Saran, a cunning advisor to the council, who had long served as the puppeteer behind the village's darkest deeds. Saran's lips curled into a smirk. The fall of the Shadow Sovereign was merely the first move in a deeper game. That night, in the ruined chapel where Lyra had uncovered her grandmother's journal, strange shadows flickered along the walls. A meeting of the remaining elders and Saran convened in secret. "The binding's destruction weakens our hold," Saran warned, "but the village's soul remains vulnerable. We must reclaim it by any means necessary." One elder, trembling with fear and greed, proposed a dangerous plan: to awaken an ancient artifact buried beneath the village, the Heartstone, said to grant unimaginable power, but at a terrible price. "We risk unleashing a darkness beyond even the Shadow Sovereign," another elder cautioned. Saran's gaze hardened. "Better a darkness we control than one that controls us." Meanwhile, Lyra and Finn explored the boundaries of Elderwood, seeking allies among the scattered outcasts and knowledge keepers. Among them was Anwen, a healer with mysterious powers tied to the land's ancient magic. Anwen warned of a growing corruption seeping into the earth itself, twisting creatures and men alike. "The curse was a symptom, not the root," she said. "If the Heartstone awakens, all will be lost." The trio vowed to find the artifact before the elders could claim it, setting out on a perilous journey beneath the village into forgotten tunnels and catacombs etched with warnings and runes. In the dark underground, dangers awaited. From the shadows emerged twisted creatures born of corrupted magic, their forms shifting and snarling. Lyra's light flared to life, casting back the shadows as Finn's arrows found their marks with deadly precision. But the deeper they ventured, the heavier the air grew, thick with the palpable malice that clawed at their spirits. Suddenly, a whisper echoed through the tunnels, a voice familiar yet distorted. "Lyra, you cannot undo what has been done." The voice belonged to Malus, a figure lost to legend, once a guardian, now a tormented soul bound to the Heartstone's fate. Lyra steeled herself. "Show yourself, Malus. Tell me what must be done." A spectral figure materialized, eyes filled with sorrow. "The Heartstone is both prison and key. Only through sacrifice can balance be restored." Back in the village, Saran prepared his own ritual, weaving dark magic fueled by fear and desperation. The balance teetered on a knife's edge. As dawn approached, Lyra, Finn, and Anwen faced their greatest test yet to confront not only the darkness in Elderwood's soil, but the darkness lurking within themselves. Because in a village built on secrets and lies, trust was as fragile as the light of the breaking day. The heavy silence in Elderwood was shattered by the distant howls of wolves as nightfall crept over the village like a living shadow. The village folk shuttered their windows tightly, clutching talismans and muttering prayers passed down for generations. But the old protections felt weaker now, and the air was thick with an ominous energy that no one dared to name aloud. Lyra stood at the edge of the ancient forest, staring down the dark path that led to the hidden catacombs beneath the village. The weight of her grandmother Seraphine's journal pressed heavy in her satchel, a grim reminder of the legacy she was forced to inherit. Finn stood beside her, his rugged features carved with worry, while Anwen's soft glow from her healing staff barely pierced the gloom. "We must find the Heartstone before the council does," Lyra said quietly. "If Saran and the elders awaken it, the village will be lost to darkness." Anwen nodded solemnly. "The Heartstone is the source of the village's ancient power but also its curse. It binds the souls of the betrayed, and feeds on the fear and hatred of those who dwell above." Finn gripped his bow tightly. "Then we need to act fast. The longer we wait, the stronger their magic grows." The trio descended into the earth, their footsteps echoing off the damp stone as they entered the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Elderwood. Runes etched into the walls glowed faintly, illuminating their path but also warning of the dangers that awaited. The deeper they ventured, the colder the air grew, and a suffocating sense of dread settled over them. Illyra's spirit, though freed from the curse of the Shadow Sovereign, still haunted these passages, her restless soul bound to the Heartstone's fate. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and from the darkness emerged twisted forms, spectral guardians corrupted by centuries of dark magic. Their eyes burned with malevolent fire as they lunged forward, snarling and clawing. Lyra raised her hands, chanting the ancient spells her grandmother had taught her. Blades of pure light sliced through the shadows, illuminating the cavern with brilliant radiance. Finn's arrows flew swift and true, piercing the heart of the twisted guardians. Anwen's healing aura shielded them from the poisonous miasma that seeped from the walls. As the last guardian fell, the group pressed onward, hearts pounding and breath ragged. Ahead, they found the chamber of the Heartstone, a massive, pulsating gem embedded in an altar of blackened stone, radiating both power and decay. Before they could approach, a voice echoed through the cavern, smooth, chilling, and filled with ancient malice. "So, the children of the Guardian have come to claim what is mine." From the shadows stepped Saran, his eyes glowing with unnatural light, holding a twisted staff crackling with dark energy. "You have no idea what forces you meddle with," Saran sneered. "The Heartstone's power is beyond your feeble understanding. Join me, and together we will reshape Elderwood." Lyra's gaze hardened. "We will stop you. Your reign of fear ends tonight." A fierce battle erupted, magic and steel clashing in the depths. Saran summoned tendrils of darkness that writhed like serpents, striking at Lyra and her companions. She parried with spells of light, feeling the strain in her limbs but refusing to yield. Finn's arrows struck true, disrupting Saran's concentration. And when called upon the healing spirits of the earth, mending wounds, and bolstering their strength. But Saran was relentless. He unleashed a wave of shadow that engulfed the chamber, threatening to consume them all. In a desperate move, Lyra reached into her satchel and drew forth the talisman her grandmother had entrusted to her, a silver amulet etched with protective runes. Holding it high, she channeled all her energy into it, sending a blinding pulse of light rippling through the darkness. Saran screamed in fury as the light struck him, his form flickering and weakening. "This is not over," he spat before vanishing into a swirl of shadows. The Heartstone pulsed one last time before dimming, its corrupt power sealed for now. Breathing heavily, the trio knew this victory was only temporary. The darkness lurking beneath Elderwood was ancient and cunning. To truly save their village, they would have to unravel the secrets of the Heartstone's creation and confront the sins of their ancestors. As they ascended from the catacombs, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The village awaited, unaware of the silent battle fought beneath their feet. But the shadows whispered still, and the curse of Elderwood was far from broken. The fragile calm that followed the sealing of the Heartstone was but a fleeting illusion. Whispered rumors snaked through Elderwood like a poisonous fog, eroding trust, and kindling old grudges. Though Saran had vanished, his influence lingered, woven into the very fabric of the village's shadows. Lyra awoke one chilly morning to find a letter slipped beneath her door. The parchment was stained and the ink smeared as if hastily written. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. "The truth you seek is buried deeper than stone. Beware those you call allies, not all bear light. Look to the past, and the betrayal will reveal itself." A chill crawled down her spine. The handwriting was unfamiliar, yet the warning was clear. Finn, ever the skeptic, frowned when she shared the note. "This smells like a trap. Saran's not done with us, he's playing a deeper game." Anwen's eyes narrowed, her intuition prickling. "There's someone else, a hidden hand pulling strings from the dark." Their fears were confirmed when Lyra's closest friend, Ryan, a scholar entrusted with the village's lore, suddenly disappeared without a trace. The only clue was a shattered amulet found beside an ancient oak, a symbol tied to the Guardians. Desperate to find Ryan, Lyra and her companions uncovered a secret chamber beneath the village library. Dusty tomes and faded paintings adorned the walls, telling stories of Elderwood's founders, some noble, others cruel and treacherous. Among the relics lay a forgotten tapestry depicting a pact between the founding families and a shadow entity. But one figure was conspicuously absent. The name of Ryan's family, once thought to be loyal guardians, had been erased. Betrayal. Lyra's heart ached. Could Ryan's disappearance be linked to this dark family secret? Was the scholar a victim or a conspirator? As they pieced together clues, a cold wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing their lanterns. Whispers filled the air, voices both pleading and threatening. "Turn back, or join the lost." Lyra steadied her breath, igniting a small flame in her palm. "We won't abandon him. Whatever this darkness is, we'll face it together." The next night, as the village slept uneasily, shadowy figures moved through the streets. Cloaked and silent, they struck swiftly. Homes were ransacked, symbols of the guardians defaced, and those suspected of opposing the elders threatened into silence. Lyra realized that the battle was no longer just against Saran or the Heartstone, it was a war for the soul of Elderwood itself. In the midst of chaos, a mysterious stranger arrived. Cloaked in a midnight blue cloak embroidered with silver runes, she introduced herself as Selene, a wanderer and keeper of forbidden knowledge. Selene spoke of an ancient prophecy foretelling the rise of a shadow heir, one who would either save or doom Elderwood. Her piercing eyes locked onto Lyra's. "You carry the blood of the guardians," Selene said. "But the choices you make will shape the fate of us all. Trust is your greatest weapon and your deadliest vulnerability." Torn between suspicion and hope, Lyra hesitated, sensing that this enigmatic woman might be the key to unraveling the web of deceit or the architect of deeper treachery. As the village spiraled into fear and uncertainty, the echoes of betrayal grew louder, and the lines between friend and foe blurred like shadows at dusk. The night in Elderwood had taken on a strange quality, as if the very air itself had thinned, the barrier between the living and the dead growing fragile and porous. The villagers whispered of sightings, fleeting shadows slipping between trees, ghostly figures in the mist, and soft cries carried on the wind. Lyra stood atop the hill overlooking the village, clutching Selene's silver pendant, a symbol of protection, but also a key. The enigmatic woman had entrusted it to her just before vanishing into the gathering fog. "We must cross the veil," Selene's voice echoed in Lyra's mind, "to find Ryan and confront the darkness that threatens both our worlds." The veil, a mystical boundary that separated the realm of the living from the shadow realm, where restless spirits and forgotten memories lingered. Crossing it was perilous, a journey few dared to attempt. Determined, Lyra gathered Finn and Anwen at the ancient shrine beneath the old oak tree, the place where her grandmother had first taught her the rites of the guardians. Together, they prepared the ritual, chanting incantations, arranging runes of power, and lighting candles infused with rare herbs. As the final word was spoken, a shimmering portal tore open before them, a swirling gateway into the unknown. Stepping through, the world shifted. Colors faded to muted grays and blues, and the landscape warped into a twisted mirror of Elderwood, familiar, yet alien, and haunted. The air was thick with sorrow and whispers. Illyra's spirit appeared before them, her form flickering like a candle flame in the wind. "You have come," she said softly. "But beware, the shadow realm is a labyrinth of memories and lies." Guided by Illyra, they ventured deeper, confronting lost souls trapped by fear and regret. Some reached out, begging for release, others lashed out in torment. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and from the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in darkness. It was Malus, the tormented guardian bound to the Heartstone. "You trespass," Malus hissed, eyes burning with pain and fury. "The balance is shattered. Only one may restore it, but at great cost." A fierce battle ensued. Lyra's magic clashed with Malus's shadowy wrath. Finn's arrows found weak spots, while Anwen's healing light shielded their fragile forms. In the heart of the shadow realm, truths were revealed. Malus was once Seraphine's sister, consumed by jealousy and ambition. Her betrayal had birthed the curse that plagued Elderwood. Lyra's heart ached as she faced the tragic specter, torn between hatred and pity. "Is there no redemption for you?" Lyra asked, voice trembling. Melis's form flickered. "Only through sacrifice and forgiveness." With a final surge, Melis unleashed her power, threatening to engulf them all. But Lyra stepped forward, merging her spirit with Melis's, calming the storm. The veil shimmered and began to heal, the realm of shadows settling into peace. But as they prepared to return, a new threat emerged. Saran, reborn from the lingering darkness, his eyes blazing with vengeance. "Your journey is far from over," he snarled. "The true war begins now." The moment Saran's shadowy form dissolved into the swirling mists of the veil, a chill settled over Elderwood, deeper and more insidious than any before. The village's fragile peace shattered like glass underfoot, and the tendrils of an even darker power began to weave through its streets and hearts. Lyra, Finn, and Anwen returned from the Shadow Realm drained but determined. The revelations about Melis' tragic fall haunted their minds, but no time was left for grief. Saran's rebirth meant the battle had only begun. Back in the village, strange occurrences accelerated, livestock found lifeless with no explanation, whispers of possession spreading like wildfire, and shadows moving independently under the moonlight. The villagers' fear transformed into paranoia, fracturing communities, and turning friends into enemies. Among the chaos, Lyra noticed a disturbing shift within herself. Her connection to the veil left scars, fleeting visions of the Shadow Realm, whispers urging her towards darker paths. She fought to hold on to her humanity, but the darkness was relentless. Meanwhile, Saran, now more powerful and merciless, sought to consolidate his control. Gathering loyal followers, desperate and corrupted souls hungry for power, he unleashed a campaign of terror designed to weaken the Guardians and silence dissent. One night, the village was rocked by a massacre. The home of Elderwood's most respected elder, Saelim, was burned to ashes. His family vanished without a trace. The smoke and ash mingled with the screams of the villagers, igniting fury and despair. Lyra vowed vengeance. With Finn and Anwen, she rallied those still loyal to the cause. Together, they formed a clandestine resistance, a beacon of hope in the darkening village. Training in ancient rites and combat, they prepared for the inevitable clash. But Saran was cunning. He struck with deception and illusion, planting seeds of doubt among the resistance. Trust fractured, betrayal lurked in every shadow. A chilling encounter cemented this fear. One night, Lyra was ambushed by a figure cloaked in darkness, a former ally now turned Saran's spy. Their battle was fierce, magic clashing in a storm of light and shadow. Lyra barely escaped, wounded and shaken, her faith in those around her deeply shaken. As she recovered, Anwen revealed a secret: the Heartstone, though sealed, still pulsed faintly beneath the village, its power leaking into the land, feeding the growing darkness. Together, they sought out an ancient ritual that could sever the Heartstone's lingering influence, a dangerous rite that required the ultimate sacrifice. The village stood on the edge of annihilation. Lyra's resolve hardened. The future of Elderwood depended on choices yet to be made, alliances forged and broken, and a battle not just for survival, but for the very soul of their world. The village of Elderwood was no longer the sanctuary it once was. Darkness clawed its way through every corner, twisting hearts and poisoning minds. The air was thick with despair, and the shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own, a harbinger of the final storm that was to come. Lyra stood before the ancient altar in the heart of the forest, the place where her grandmother Seraphine once performed sacred rites. The moon hung low, casting silver light through the swaying branches, illuminating the runes carved deep into the stone. Beside her, Finn and Anwen prepared the ritual, a desperate attempt to sever the Heartstone's lingering curse from the village. The price, however, was steep. The ritual demanded the sacrifice of one pure soul, willing to become the beacon of light, a living conduit to cleanse the darkness. Lyra's heart ached as she considered the weight of the choice. Who among them would bear this burden? Suddenly, a chilling gust swept through the clearing. The shadows flickered, and from the depths of the forest emerged Saran's emissaries, twisted beings forged from corrupted magic, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. The resistance warriors, hidden among the trees, sprang into action. Steel clashed against shadow, and arrows soared like streaks of silver. Finn's voice rang clear, rallying the defenders as he fired precise shots, felling the dark creatures one by one. Anwen's healing light shielded the wounded, weaving protective wards that shimmered like ethereal veils. But the creatures were relentless, pressing harder with every wave. Amidst the chaos, Lyra stepped forward, raising the talisman her grandmother had passed down. Chanting the ancient incantation, she began to draw upon the raw energy of the forest, a vibrant, living force that pulsed beneath her fingertips. The air thickened with power, and the runes on the altar blazed with radiant light. The ground trembled as a brilliant pillar of energy erupted skyward, slicing through the darkness like a sword of dawn. Saran's emissaries recoiled, their forms unraveling under the purifying force. Yet, from the shadows, Saran himself appeared, a towering figure wreathed in black flames, eyes burning with hatred. "You think this light can save you?" he snarled. "You will fall, just as your ancestors did." Lyra met his gaze, unwavering. "As long as there is light, darkness will never prevail." The final battle erupted. Magic and steel collided in a tempest of fury. Saran unleashed torrents of shadow fire, seeking to consume Lyra's light. Finn fought desperately, his arrows weaving through the haze, while Anwen chanted protective spells that shielded their fragile hope. As the battle raged, Lyra felt the ritual's toll. Her strength waned, and the beacon of light within her began to burn brighter, consuming her very essence. "Hold on, Lyra," Finn shouted, desperation in his voice. "You can't give up now." But Lyra knew the truth. To save Elderwood, she must become the living seal, a sacrifice that would bind the darkness forever. With a final surge, she unleashed a wave of pure energy that engulfed Saran, sealing his power within an ethereal prison. The village trembled as the curse shattered, light flooding every shadowed corner. But as the dawn broke, Lyra's body lay still upon the altar, her eyes closed in eternal peace. Her sacrifice had saved Elderwood, but at a cost that would echo through the ages. Finn and Anwen knelt beside her, tears mingling with the morning dew. The village mourned their fallen guardian, but knew her light would guide them forever. As the villagers gathered, a soft breeze whispered through the trees, carrying a promise of hope, renewal, and the eternal struggle between light and shadow. The dawn after Lyra's sacrifice painted Elderwood in hues of gold and crimson, yet beneath the serene skies, a somber silence hung heavy. The villagers gathered around the ancient altar where she had fallen, mourning not only the loss of their guardian but also contemplating the uncertain future that now lay before them. Finn stood solemnly at her side, the weight of leadership settling upon his shoulders like a shroud. And when soft prayers echoed through the grove, her healing magic weaving a gentle aura of peace over the mourning crowd. Though Lyra's body lay still, the light she had ignited within Elderwood refused to fade. Amidst the gathering, a new presence stirred, a figure cloaked in deep blue, her eyes radiant with the wisdom of ages. Selene, the enigmatic wanderer who had once entrusted Lyra with the silver pendant, stepped forward. Her voice was calm, yet carried the undeniable authority of one who had witnessed the flow of time itself. Lyra's spirit has become one with the light that guards this village, Selene announced. But her journey does not end here. The legacy she leaves is a beacon for those who will come after, the next Lightkeepers who will stand against the encroaching darkness. The villagers looked among themselves, uncertain who would rise to such a calling. Finn's gaze hardened, resolve flashing in his eyes. "I will carry her legacy," he declared. "I will protect Elderwood with every breath I have left." Anwen placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression both proud and wary. "The path of a Lightkeeper is fraught with sacrifice. It will demand everything from you: your heart, your mind, and your soul." As the village slowly returned to its routines, shadows still lingered beyond the trees. Though Saran was sealed away, the darkness had been awakened in deeper, more insidious ways. Strange markings appeared on the village outskirts, glowing sigils that pulsed with malevolent energy. Crops withered overnight, and animals behaved erratically. It became clear that the Heartstone's influence, though diminished, was not fully extinguished. One evening, as Finn patrolled the village perimeter, a chilling wind swept through the fields. A whispering voice, barely audible, beckoned him towards the ancient ruins deep in the forest, the very place where the Heartstone had once been housed. Compelled by a mixture of duty and dread, Finn ventured into the night, following the haunting call. There, beneath the shattered stones, he discovered a hidden chamber untouched by time, yet alive with dark power. Within the chamber lay an ancient relic, a crystalline shard radiating with both light and shadow. The shard was a fragment of the Heartstone, a seed of corruption that threatened to unravel all they had fought to protect. As Finn reached out to touch it, visions flooded his mind, glimpses of a war waged before the village's founding, of ancestors who had battled not just darkness, but their own inner demons. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, hooded stranger with eyes like burning embers. "You seek to destroy what you do not understand," the stranger intoned. "The shard is not merely a source of power, but a key to balance. To wield it is to embrace both light and shadow." Finn recoiled but held his ground. If it means protecting Elderwood, then I will face whatever darkness lies within. The stranger's lips curved into a faint smile. Then you may be the one to awaken the true Lightkeeper. Back in the village, Anwen sensed the growing disturbance and sought out Selene. Together, they delved into forgotten texts, uncovering prophecies and rituals long buried. They learned of the veils thinning the boundary between worlds, weakening, and the emergence of a new enemy, born from the mingling of shadow and light. As days passed, the village braced for a storm unlike any before. Alliances shifted, old wounds reopened, and the line between friend and foe blurred. Lyra's sacrifice had sparked a legacy, one that would demand courage, wisdom, and unyielding strength. And in the heart of Elderwood, beneath the watching stars, Finn prepared to embrace his destiny as the next Lightkeeper. The weight of the legacy rested heavily on Finn's shoulders. Every morning as the first light touched Elderwood's rooftops, he felt the pull of destiny, an unyielding force demanding more than just courage. The shard he had found in the hidden chamber was no ordinary relic. It was a mirror reflecting both the light he sought to uphold and the shadows he feared within himself. Finn's nights were restless, plagued by visions where the shard whispered secrets, its crystalline facets refracting memories, not his own, battles waged in forgotten realms, betrayals carved into the fabric of time, and a warning: the greatest threat lies not outside, but within. Determined to master the shard's power, Finn sought out the village's reclusive sage, Ira, whose knowledge of ancient magics was unmatched. Deep within her cabin, surrounded by tomes and enchanted artifacts, Ira examined the shard, her eyes widening with recognition. "This is no mere fragment," Ira murmured. "It is a keystone, a convergence point of light and shadow. Wielding it requires balance, lest it consumes the bearer." Finn clenched his fists. "I don't have a choice. The village depends on me." Ira nodded gravely. "Then you must undergo the trial of reflection. Only by confronting your deepest fears and truths can you hope to control the keystone." The trial demanded Finn enter a realm shaped by his own memories and emotions, a mirror world where shadows took form, twisting into manifestations of doubt, regret, and temptation. As Finn stepped into the ethereal plane, he was immediately confronted by visions of his past, the day Lyra sacrificed herself, the faces of those he failed to protect, and the creeping darkness threatening to unravel Elderwood. A shadowy figure appeared, a twisted reflection of Finn himself, embodying all his fears and anger. "You think you're worthy to carry the Lightkeeper's mantle?" the shadow taunted. "You are no different from Saran, driven by pain, blinded by vengeance." Finn's resolve wavered but did not break. "I am not him. I will be better." The shadow lunged, and a fierce battle ensued, one of wills and spirit. Each blow Finn struck against the shadow was matched by a deeper struggle within, forcing him to confront his flaws and embrace the complexity of his nature. Emerging victorious but humbled, Finn returned to the physical world, changed, his eyes now glowing faintly with the shard's power, his heart tempered by acceptance. Meanwhile, Elderwood faced new threats. Saran's followers, though leaderless, had splintered into cults worshipping fragments of the Heartstone's lingering darkness. These factions spread chaos and fear, sowing discord among the villagers. Among them was Kalen, a charismatic and ruthless warlock who claimed to be the true heir to Saran's legacy. With a growing army of twisted creatures and corrupted humans, Kalen launched attacks on key village outposts, testing Finn's nascent powers and the resilience of the resistance. One fateful night, the village's main supply depot was ambushed. Flames engulfed the wooden structures as villagers scrambled to defend what little they had. Finn, Anwen, and the resistance warriors fought valiantly, but Kalen's magic was formidable. He wielded shadow flames that seared the earth and summoned beasts born of nightmare. During the battle, Finn confronted Kalen directly. Their duel was a whirlwind of light and shadow, Finn's keystone magic clashing with Kalen's dark sorcery. In a desperate gambit, Kalen unleashed a curse meant to corrupt Finn's very soul. But Finn, grounded by his trial and the memories of Lyra's sacrifice, channeled the keystone's power to purify the attack, turning the curse back upon its caster. Wounded and enraged, Kalen retreated, vowing vengeance. The battle left Elderwood scarred, but its spirit unbroken. Finn and his companions knew this was only the beginning of a long war, one that would test their bonds, their beliefs, and their very humanity. As dawn broke over the smoldering ruins, Finn looked to the horizon. The path of the Lightkeeper was fraught with peril, but with allies by his side and the light within, he would face whatever shadows lay ahead. The echoes of the last battle still lingered in the air, smoke curling from the charred remnants of the supply depot, whispers of loss and courage weaving through the village. Elderwood stood on a precipice, its people fractured but unyielding, their will forged in fire and shadow. Finn, his gaze steely, returned to the sanctuary of the ancient grove, where the Heartstone shard pulsed faintly within the keystone. He felt the burden of leadership tighten like chains around his heart, yet, amidst the weight, flickered the unwavering flame of hope. Anwen approached, her healing hands glowing softly. "The village needs more than strength in battle," she said gently. "It needs unity, trust rekindled where suspicion has taken root." Finn nodded. "We must rebuild not just walls and defenses, but the bonds between us." In the days that followed, Finn and Anwen journeyed through Elderwood, mending fences, and rallying disparate factions of the resistance. Their message was clear: light and shadow are intertwined, only by embracing both could they overcome the darkness that threatened to consume them. Among those they sought was Selene, the mysterious wanderer who had once guided Lyra and whispered of the prophecy. Hidden deep within the forest, Selene had become a recluse, guarding secrets older than the village itself. When Finn and Anwen found her, Selene's eyes held both sorrow and wisdom. "The prophecy speaks not only of Lightkeepers, but of Shadowbinders, those who walk the path of darkness without losing their soul." Finn frowned. "Do you mean there are others like Kalen who harness shadow? Can they be allies?" Selene's gaze pierced the twilight. "Some shadows are born of pain and fear, yes. But not all are enemies. It is balance, the dance of light and dark, that holds the key." As Selene shared forgotten lore, a new figure emerged from the shadows, a young woman named Kaya, whose powers bridged both realms. Once a follower of Kalen, she had broken free from his corruption and sought redemption. Kaya's arrival stirred unrest. Many in the village distrusted her, memories of her past clouding judgments. Yet Finn saw in her a chance to unite fractured forces against a common enemy. Together, the group uncovered that Kalen sought a ritual to fully restore the Heartstone's power, threatening to unleash a darkness that could engulf both Elderwood and the Vale. Time was running out. In a daring raid, Finn, Anwen, Kaya, and Selene infiltrated one of Kalen's strongholds, a fortress of twisted magic and haunted echoes. The halls echoed with wails of the lost and flickered with sinister enchantments. Within the heart of the fortress, they faced Kalen himself, his form more monstrous than before, a vessel of shadow, flame and rage. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Kalen's magic sought to tear them apart, but the unity of light and shadow forged in their hearts gave them strength. Kaya, embracing her Shadowbinder heritage, wove barriers of darkness that shielded the group, while Anwen's healing light mended wounds in the midst of chaos. Finn's keystone magic pierced through Kalen's defenses, and Selene's ancient spells disrupted his dark rituals. In the climax, Finn and Kalen clashed in a storm of energy, each blow shaking the very foundation of the fortress. With a final surge, Finn unleashed the full power of the keystone, channeling both light and shadow. The blast shattered Kalen's form, sealing his essence within a crystal prison of fate no less cruel than the darkness he had embraced. Breathless and battered, the group emerged victorious, but not unscarred. Elderwood was safe for now. But the bonds forged in light and shadow had only just begun to be tested. As dawn broke once more, Finn looked to Kaya and Selene, knowing that the true journey was only beginning. The balance of their world depended on them and the choices yet to come. The air hung thick with anticipation as Elderwood prepared for the final reckoning. The shadows that had long lurked in the corners of the village began to retreat, but whispers of lingering darkness remained, a reminder that balance was a fragile dance, not a permanent state. Finn stood atop the ancient hill overlooking the village, the keystone shard glowing faintly in his hand. The memories of Lyra's sacrifice, the trials of the Shadow Realm, and the fierce battles against Saran and Kalen flooded his mind. Yet, amid the storm of emotions, he found a calm resolve. Beside him stood Kaya and Selene, two halves of a whole, embodying the unity of light and shadow. Their journey had forged an unbreakable bond, a trinity destined to protect Elderwood from the forces that sought its undoing. The final battle was not just against an enemy but against the darkness within themselves and their world. As twilight gave way to night, a terrible roar shattered the calm. The ground trembled as the Heartstone's corruption, pulsing and growing in the depths beneath Elderwood, sought to break free once more. From the shadows emerged the embodiment of the Heartstone's wrath, a colossal entity wreathed in dark flames and swirling shadows. Its eyes burned with hatred, its voice a cacophony of despair and rage. Finn raised the keystone, channeling all his strength and the lessons he had learned. Kaya wove the shadows into protective sigils, while Selene called upon ancient spirits to bolster their power. The battle was epic, a clash of titanic forces that shook the very earth. Light and shadow intertwined in dazzling displays of power, each strike and spell a testament to the warrior's resolve. In the heart of the fray, Finn confronted the entity, his voice steady as he spoke words of hope and defiance. The keystone flared with blinding light, sealing the creature within a prison of pure energy. But such power came at a cost. The strain of the battle overwhelmed Finn. His body faltered, and as the first light of dawn touched the sky, he collapsed, the keystone shattering into countless shards. Kaya and Selene rushed to his side, their voices filled with tears and determination. "You saved us all," Kaya whispered. "Your light will live on." From the scattered shards, a radiant glow emerged, the spirit of Lyra, reborn through Finn's sacrifice and the unity forged between light and shadow. Her form shimmered with ethereal grace, eyes bright with hope. "I am the Dawnkeeper now," she declared softly. "Elderwood's guardian, protector of the balance." The village awoke to a new era. Under Lyra's watchful gaze, peace blossomed, and the scars of the past began to heal. Yet, the story of Elderwood was far from over. The balance between light and shadow was eternal, a delicate thread woven through time. And as long as the Dawnkeeper stood, the village would endure, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Title: The Lightkeeper's Legacy, Shadows over Elderwood. Description: In the quiet village of Elderwood, a dark curse stirs ancient shadows, threatening to consume all in its path. When Lyra, the last guardian, sacrifices herself to seal away the malevolent force known as Saran, a new era dawns, one that demands courage, sacrifice, and unity between light and shadow. Follow Finn, a reluctant hero burdened with the legacy of the Lightkeeper, as he battles internal demons, betrayal, and the rising power of dark sorcery. Alongside enigmatic allies like Selene and Kaya, who embody the delicate balance between darkness and light, Finn must confront relentless enemies, uncover forgotten secrets, and embrace a destiny that will decide the fate of Elderwood. This epic fantasy saga weaves together magic, mystery, and the timeless struggle between good and evil. Will the bonds forged in light and shadow be enough to save a world on the brink of destruction?